Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next webinar that we're doing here today. This webinar is it's got a little bit about product in there, but it's also a little bit more about the market space at the moment, and the requirements of that, and hopefully showing how we can help and support our ISP partners from a TP-Link perspective, from some of the solutions we have, some of the products we have. As the title says, there's speed to the home and all around it, but we'll also cover in here about managing it as well. What I'd also like to do is just give you a quick update on TP-Link itself, because there's some new information for you, or an update for you. Excuse me. So without further ado, we'll get into the slides. It shouldn't be too arduous this morning. It probably won't last the full hour. It's a bit more of an easy one, but whilst we approach Christmas. So yeah, here we go. We can actually make it start. There we go. So one of the things just wanted to give you an update about is our offices, our new offices over in California. This is our new headquarters, being a US company. And you can see there we've certainly expanding quite dramatically. This is going to become absolutely a major R&D centre, and also operations and the commercial logistical place as well, for our operations globally. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with TP-Link, but just reiterating to you all that we've got a different set of portfolios depending on the market space that we're actually working within. We have different verticals. Our business area, our B2B environment, is our Armada product line. For the consumer home environment is our Deco range. And then there's also in our home monitoring security type products are our TAPO and CASA. But of course, what we talk about here on these webinars, being an ISP webinar format, we talk about our Aginet product portfolio, and we'll get into that a little bit further on about what that actually covers. But just one other piece of information for you before we get into the main slides. We've also now got a new warehouse facility here in the UK. So any of you who are buying your stock through us, it all comes into this facility. It's a massive place. Was there the other day. It's about the size you could park a jumbo jet inside. So it's pretty big. But of course, what this means, we've always had our local warehouse, but this has given us much more capability for holding much more stock, for being able to turn it around and be more flexible on the way we actually manage and monitor any stock that we have. And it also affords us, hopefully moving forward, the opportunity to provide additional services to our ISP partners. So hopefully in the future we'll all start to benefit from those, and more importantly, hopefully you guys will benefit from that. But we still run very much the same principle, of course: local warehouse, local support, local technical support, as well as commercial support. We're all here to help. So yeah, please keep in touch. Let us know what you need from us. So just kind of getting into the bulk of the slides then, and initially just want to talk about speed to the home. Now, just a bit of history, as it says there, for those of you who are too young to remember, which is probably a lot of you in compared to me. But Wi-Fi's been around for quite a number of years. Since '97, it came into the homes. Obviously, it was around before that, but it really started to get used in the home in '97. And of course, at that stage, it was a very, very simple Wi-Fi, as you can see there, 11A and 11G, the first kind of Wi-Fi iterations here. It was very basic. Um, it's got obviously just one person there. You could do more than one person, but actually you would end up fighting for the bandwidth. And then as time went on, the technologies have improved and the iterations of the Wi-Fi version have increased, providing greater capability, using different frequencies, and bringing us all the way up as Wi-Fi 6, but now on to Wi-Fi 7, which we'll be talking about a little bit further on in the slides. And how that actually benefits and helps us with speed around the home. And also, looking at that next section there, the impact of speed coming into the home, it's becoming ever more important for a decent speed in the home. Yes, there's still a lot of people who may just want to browse the internet and maybe do a bit of email, but the requirement for broadband now, with working from home, education at home, and all these sort of things, is actually bringing on the requirement for speed. Because in yesteryear, again, if any of you remember that far back, as I do, trying to get onto the internet, waiting for things to download, as you can see here, you kind of fall asleep at your desk waiting for the data to refresh. Well, with the onslaught of the greater speeds, of course, these days, then everything's a lot faster, and we're all a lot quicker, a lot more flexible, a lot more dynamic on the way we actually able to work from home and do everything from home. So this speed is become a very much an important part of our broadband requirement. And then, when you look at the way that broadband is enhancing our lives these days, if you just take education for one, I don't know if any of you remember that sort of graphic that we have there. For those of you who are not quite familiar with what those are under that cup, they're called books. Not a lot of those are used nowadays, but I certainly remember having to sit at a desk at home like that, reading books to do my homework, that's for sure. And I think we used to use a slate and chisel actually to write on. So, there was things have changed, things have moved on. And now when the kids are at home doing their homework, they want to be anywhere around the home. They want to be able to get connectivity in every corner. And so, again, it's not just about speed coming into the home, but it's about speed everywhere around the home in every corner. So why do we have that need for speed? Well, I think we've covered off some of those elements there. And if you look these days, the number of devices that are coming into the home, certainly a massive increase on there. You can see down in the corner here the statistics and information there. Back in 2018, on average about 5.6 devices per person, that is in a home. So the average home of which is considered mum and dad and two kids, about 20 devices would be about right in 2018. Come up to 2023 for that same home, that's almost doubled. But if we then looking into 2028, it's projected to be 15 or just over 15 pieces per person. So you're talking about the potential for 60 devices within the home. Now, the requirement there, of course, is that may not all be about high speed, because you can see from some of the products that we're actually looking on here, light bulbs, doorbells, contact sensors, those sort of things, they don't take a lot of data. However, they do need connectivity, and they do need it as a stable connection in all corners of the room. But on top of those sort of devices, there are, as we can see here, as we've listed out, some, pretty much every room these days has a smart TV in it. The kids have theirs, mum, dad have theirs, and everybody's watching something different. No one's ever watching the same program, but you're all streaming something simultaneously. So that's where you start to get the demand. One thing for speed coming in to the home, but also that speed around the home. And then you get your gaming, not just playing it, but also downloading the new games, and your social media content, and working from home. And all of these things are starting to really drive that requirement of the speed into the home, but also the speed around the home. And it's quite an interesting scenario now where we've got the WAN and the LAN driving each other. All the time, people are picking up more devices, more technologies, more things they want to do at home. So needing the bandwidth around the home, the speed around the home, and that then drives what is required out to the outside world over the WAN. So is there a need for matching WAN and LAN these days? Well, in our opinion, yes, it's absolutely got to that stage now. So getting speed in and out of the home. Well, we're all aware of multi-gig speeds on fibre these days, and also, the potential for gaining those higher speeds over a 5G environment. The 5G network is getting there. It's a slower uptake, of course, than what we all anticipated, being able to get high speed. But where you can get it, then it's pretty decent speed, and that's only going to increase. And so it's not just about fibre. Obviously, that's the main media, but for those hard to reach places, 5G is certainly going to have its place and drive the high speed connections into the home. And of course, the one thing that fibre does have the benefit of is the speed out. So what are we talking about there? Well, if we look at some of the applications we were talking about just now, more specifically the gaming, it's one thing having the speed into the home on an asymmetric service, but with fibre, of course, a lot of ISPs now are offering symmetrical services. So you've got the same speed in and out. And that certainly is a massive benefit when it comes down to some of those other things you're doing, like gaming, maybe you're video streaming, maybe you're working from home, and the requirement to upload big files and need to get them up there quickly. So the ability is certainly there for all to use today. Now, once you've got the speed in, you've got to get it around the home, and that's, I guess, where TP-Link certainly have we believe the product sets and the technologies and the solutions to be able to provide that. You can see some of them there on the graphic. Some of the products that we have, a lot of Wi-Fi mesh devices and 5G. Devices to be able to use 5G broadband. But there's Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi 6, but also PoE type Wi-Fi mesh devices. And of course, all of these are what enable speed around the home, but not just speed in parts of it, but speed everywhere around the home, real meshing to provide whole home coverage. And not only that, when you look at this last point on here, a lot of devices, if you're going to have a multi-gig fibre coming into your home, a multi-gig broadband service, then it stands to reason that you should also have that ability to connect onto the router itself, into a physical Ethernet port, but at a multi-gig speed. You don't particularly want to be having 2, 3, 4 gig coming in, and then only have a 1 gig LAN port. So with that, just to show you some of the capabilities of this is one of our products. This is our Aginet HB810, and this device is a very, very powerful device, but we believe, of course, that offers our ISP partners some really good flexibility in not just how you use it, but when you use it. And let me explain what I actually mean there. But you can see the capabilities of this device on its WAN. Yes, you've got up to a 10 gig Ethernet port. So if you're doing fibre in and doing a 2-box solution with an XGS PON ONT, then that can go directly via your Ethernet into this device on its 10 gig Ethernet WAN port. But then you've got a 10 gig Ethernet LAN port. As I was mentioning just now, what's the point in having a 10 gig on one side and then only having 1 gig on the other? So our products, absolutely, certainly in this product, has the ability to take that whole bandwidth from outside to in and in to out. There's also the flexibility there if you start to look down the route of going a single box solution where you're going to bring fiber directly in. And you can do that. This device has an SFP cage on it where you could insert an XGS-PON SFP module. And so you then, as I say, go direct fiber into this device. And then on top of this, this particular product is a tri-band 4x4x4 Wi-Fi 7 device. So absolutely enables the coverage at speed in every corner of the home. Now, I think, you know, what I was mentioning on this at the very start of this slide was this point here. You know, when do you install this? Well, you know, some people would say, oh, it's a bit of an expensive product to go in with, you know, today. And, you know, is it really needed? Well, you know, there are considerations that maybe putting something like this in today will fulfill absolutely your customers' requirements today and still have a lot of capability over the top. But once it's in, this product is going to stay in that customer for many years. And so actually the return on investment, the cost comparison about do you put a slightly lower spec product in now, which is just enough to cover what the customer wants today, that maybe doesn't give you then the growth or you the growth capability to be able to sell further services or increase services as an ISP. Well, maybe going with a product of this sort of spec today does make sense. It enables you to grow and removes the requirement to have to swap products out, which of course is a cost moving forward. So also mentioned about 5G. Well, we absolutely have 5G products that are able to provide a WAN connectivity. This is our new outdoor unit. It's a great little product, pretty slim. It's about the size of, give you an idea, an A5 sheet of paper. But you can see the capabilities that it's got there. I'm not going to go reading all of those, but the main one to actually pull out is actually this versatile installation. Now, what we've done is a lot of work on trying to make sure that this device can be installed by the home user, by your customer, so that you don't have to be sending engineers out. And there's various different ways that this can be installed. As you can see there, it's got a glass mount, so you can mount it on a window, either inside or outside. There's also wall and pole mount capability, but also a windowsill mount. So it's like a G clamp, I guess you would call it, if anybody's familiar with that. And you clamp that onto the windowsill, and then you can obviously pivot the device around to actually point it at wherever the base station or the best signal is. It does have a directional antenna on it as well in the front panel, so that certainly improves connectivity. But also on the installation part, the app that you actually connect to it using the Aginet app, which is the same for all the Aginet products. When using that to install this device, it gives you a signal meter, so you can wander around your house and point in different directions and collect data and establish which is the best point to actually put it in. So that's one way of doing it. But it also then has 3 LEDs on the side, like a red, amber, green. So again, you can wander around with this device and sort of point it in different ways and wait and see which color that turns. So we've made this as easy as possible for the customer themselves to install it, so there's no requirement for the ISP to send an engineer out, which of course is a cost. So hopefully you can see there, there's you know, from speed into the home, we've got some very, very good options. So talking about speed all around the home, we got the speed in. Now we need to do something with it. Now, hopefully some of you will have attended some of my other webinars, and specifically the one about Wi-Fi 7, and we covered these elements in there, but just to kind of refresh on those, just to remind people of what we actually have and what we can do and what Wi-Fi 7 does for us as users and for the ISPs to be able to provide those high speed, good coverage environments. And I've just pulled out, you know, what I would perceive to be the main 4 elements of Wi-Fi, or 3 elements of Wi-Fi 7, because of course, as we say there, mesh, yeah, provides the coverage in room, but it's not new for Wi-Fi 7, but still very, very important, as you can see from our little man walking up and down around the home here. But the Wi-Fi 7 elements, looking at the first one, spatial streams, we spoke earlier about the increase in devices being connected into the home environment. And of course, we're talking about simultaneous transmissions. Now, of course, 60 devices, which is what we're looking at potentially being the average number of devices in a home in 2028. 16 streams, although that doesn't quite match up. Of course, we're talking about 16 simultaneous now is the capability in Wi-Fi 7, whereas Wi-Fi 6, it was 8. So there's a lot more control of simultaneous communication, which reduces latency, because it's less time before one of those devices that are not connected on one of those 16 streams at a time, it's less time before they are again, and so that latency is reduced. And then of course, with the ability to use 6 gigahertz in the Wi-Fi 7 setup, that of course increases the amount of bandwidth we can actually use, and the analogy used here is a 4-way motorway versus a 2-lane dual carriageway. Stands to reason you can get more cars or vehicles down it, more traffic, more data, gives you more throughput, which is more speed. And then when you look at the multi-link operation, if you look at how it was before Wi-Fi 7, a device would use one of these frequencies. It would pick up, one of those to use. Whereas in Wi-Fi 7 with multi-link capability, it can start combining 2 of them or even all 3 together. Of course, you've got to have a client device that's actually capable of doing that. But nevertheless, when you do that, that provides you redundancy, resilience and aggregation, so speed again, and range, because that means you're now picking up the different frequencies to be able to increase your range around the home. And then lastly, we've already mentioned it, but the Wi-Fi mesh, that's just so important to provide that capability of continual coverage, as you can see from our little man here, moving from one to the other, and the handover and the swap over, pretty much like your mobile phone network as you're driving along the motorway and being handed over from one base station to the next. Same principle in a Wi-Fi mesh at home. And people these days absolutely do move around their home. They're, if they're in the kitchen, maybe they're following a recipe on YouTube or something like that, but they'll also wander out of the kitchen, wander into another room. And so the last thing you want is that video stream being disconnected or stopping or blocking or buffering or things like that happening. And of course, having a good Wi-Fi mesh provides that, but it also enables you to increase your range and coverage around the home, maybe with multiple devices, multiple APs, if that's the requirement, depending on the environment, depending on the size of the home. But that's what absolutely enables that coverage. And, we see, as I'm sure, you guys as ISPs will see as well, when somebody has a problem with their Wi-Fi coverage, they call you. And when they call you or when they take to social media to moan about it, it's never, oh, my Wi-Fi's not, coverage isn't good. It's always my internet is rubbish. And we all know that's not the case. 99 times out of 100, the broadband is perfectly okay. It's very good. It's running perfectly well. And actually the problem is the Wi-Fi coverage. And sometimes that may not be the Wi-Fi coverage per se from the device itself, but all of a sudden the users decided they're going to go and sit in a corner somewhere where they've never sat before, where they haven't got Wi-Fi coverage. So I guess, that's our challenge, is to make sure that every corner is covered. So just talking about Wi-Fi mesh a little bit further, just to give you some further information about what TP-Link do in our Aginet range and our capabilities. We've got some additional what we term as AI-driven mesh capabilities, and you can see these here. The 3 core ones to call out to you there. looking at this first one here, um, there's always a requirement, and we see this as you in the mobile world, as I was alluding to just now, driving down the motorway and being handed over from base station to base station. It's all about making sure that you're actually connected to the optimal access point, the router or the mesh device within the home, and that absolutely applies here. And that's can require and does require, from our perspective, some a bit of intelligence in there. That AI that enables you to be connected to the best device, and that's not necessarily always the closest, because it may be that where you're actually standing at the time or positioned where with your device, the closest device may have more clients already connected to it. And so remembering that, there is still a limit, even though it's up to 16 now, there is a limit of simultaneous connectivity on the spatial streams. So it may be that the further away or one of the other mesh devices can actually give you a better, faster, more stable connection. But of course, that takes some AI intelligence to really understand that and run the algorithms and be able to make that decision quickly and connect you to the right device. So that's one of the features that we have in our Wi-Fi mesh. Moving on to the next one, it's a similar thing. It's all about which device you're connected to. But this is about when you're roaming and the devices learning your habits, essentially. So, again, using AI, monitoring what you do over time, what a specific client device by MAC address or IP address, understanding the habits of the user, where they move to, which rooms or devices they move closer to, and then being able to look back on that, look back on history, and to a certain level do a bit of prediction and say, okay, well, this person at this point, they've started moving here. I can see they're moving. They normally go here, so I'm going to get ready to actually connect them over to the other device. Now, of course, that means that the swapping from the connectivity from one device to the other is much faster, absolutely more seamless, and so less susceptible to being able to have any impact on any of the connectivity, streaming and things like that. So another very clever part that we've got in our mesh environment. And then lastly, pretty much most meshes have this, but it's how it's actually controlled, how it's monitored, how it's operated, and that is again AI driven. In our environment, we use our AI calculations and algorithms, monitoring the whole Wi-Fi mesh network to understand exactly what's going on in there. Is there interference? Is there something that's impacting some of the frequencies between a couple of the devices, and therefore not providing you with a good stable connection with decent speed, and then in that environment you can then start to monitor the clients, move them onto other APs or move them around and start sending traffic other directions around the mesh to avoid that impact of any interference. And again, that's all AI driven. So you can see we've got quite a lot of intelligence in the way that TP-Link do our Aginet Wi-Fi mesh. So that's what makes our mesh, we believe, very effective and very good. So looking at another device here, which is this is really gaining a lot of focus, a lot of interest, and deployment, to be honest. So again, it's a Wi-Fi 7 device, a tri-band device, but this one's a 2x2x2, so a little bit more cost effective for the ISPs and for the customers, but still multi-gig, 2.5 gig WAN and LAN ports, and so able to absolutely provide the speed of connection that is being provided by the fiber at this moment in time, and a really good product, really successful product we've got there in the marketplace, and getting great feedback, and the user scores are going up on this quite pretty well. So let's talk about Wi-Fi mesh around the home. Some of you may have seen this slide already when I was talking about Wi-Fi 7 and the benefits of it. There's some testing being done here. This is in a standard townhouse, 3-story townhouse. Just over here, this dot here, that's where the router was positioned in this testing. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's the client positions, so that's the test positions. And then in the green, the 1 and 2 in the green here, where the mesh access points, so the extender mesh units that were communicating back to the router back here. Now, the interesting point here is on all the Wi-Fi 6 testing that was done in this environment, they all used a router with 2 additional mesh nodes, whereas in the Wi-Fi 7, it was a 2-pack, so 1 router in that position there, and then we just had 1 extension in the position 1 here, 1 additional mesh point. So interestingly, of course, people generally, and rightly so, say, yeah, but Wi-Fi 7 costs more than Wi-Fi 6. Well, that's true if you're buying the same amount of units. However, as you can see here, there's a potential that you don't actually need to use as many devices in Wi-Fi 7. And so in that environment, maybe Wi-Fi 7 can actually turn out to be a lower cost option, purely because you don't need as many units. And looking at the results that are actually seen here, if you're on the ground floor next to the router, okay, it doesn't really matter what products you're using, whether you're Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, whatever it is. Yes, there's differences, but is that going to be a difference that the customer's going to, or the user's going to notice? No. They're not going to do that. Really, what we're talking about here, and as we've said, is yes, speed in the home, but speed all around the home, ensuring that there's connectivity in every room wherever you go. And I think you can see that as you get further away, and this is on the 2nd floor, the furthest point, the Wi-Fi 7 here, is absolutely maintaining a good speed all around the home in every coverage areas, whereas all the others kind of fall off. And they're all Wi-Fi 6 products. They tail off, and that's even with 3 devices around the home. So I think you can see here, looking at this, that Wi-Fi 7 certainly provides. It's not just about speed; it's about coverage. Yes, speed, but coverage, because at the end of the day, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, that's where customers are going to ring you for when they haven't got a connection. If they've got a reasonable connection, 50 meg, something, or even 10 meg, as long as they've got that everywhere in their home, you'll probably find they're going to be happy. Yeah, but it's when they get to a position where they don't get any connectivity. Wi-Fi 7 is important for that. So we talked all about actually getting the speed into the home and out of the home and around the home and managing and controlling that. So now we're talking about managing it and monitoring the speed of that environment, of those solutions. And what we want to do there is we want to talk a little bit about our Aginet TAUC system, which is our TR369 platform, and also about our Aginet app for the home user. And the key issues here, the challenges for the ISPs as we see them, and I'm sure you've got others, and we'd be very happy to hear from you about those so we can try and address those. But the key ones here is, the high cost of the refresh rate. Well, I mentioned earlier about our HB810 device. Maybe if you take that product, yes, it's a little bit more expensive at this moment in time, but there is going to be little requirement for refresh on the estate for a number of years. It will provide a growing solution. It will grow with you, it'll grow with the customer. And so not the costs there for refreshing. Obviously, another challenge is the high maintenance costs and possible truck rolls. Well, that's to do with the refresh rate, but that's also to do with managing and monitoring and customer service call requirements from customers about Wi-Fi not being working or not being coverage or those sort of things. Again, hopefully, as you've seen, as we've spoken about, there is absolutely the facility within the Wi-Fi 7 solutions and the mesh solutions to be able to stop that from happening and then hopefully reduce those truck rolls. Also, no information about end user devices. And that's actually one of the things that we'll talk about in a moment from our TAUC solution. We're able to, on there, manage the whole Wi-Fi environment. So not just seeing the APs, the mesh devices and the router, but also seeing the client devices that are connected to it. Obviously, we can't manage those. We don't have access into managing those client devices, but we can manage the environment that those client devices are using, and we can see what speed they're connecting with, what the signal quality is like, any drop-offs, anything like that, and we can start to build up a picture of the customer's environment and therefore enabling you as ISPs to be able to support your customers and maybe even fix things before they even know it. And so, keeping that customer happy, that's always difficult, but maybe these solutions can actually help you do that. So looking at the Aginet app, well, the app itself enables the customer themselves to be able to do a lot of the management and monitoring of their environment, set things up to work how they want their environment to work, change parameters, things like SSIDs, things like if they want to put their own names on, so do all those sort of configurations. But they can also look at the devices that are connected and see if they've got a good signal in themselves. And obviously on an app for a customer needs to be a little bit more simple than start giving them RSSI figures and dB levels, things like that. So in the app, it actually gives them a very simple red, amber, green to say whether the signal of a client device connected to an AP is good or bad or okay. There's also a lot of other functions and features within the app which enable things like parental control and also QoS, very important elements these days, as we were talking right at the very start of this webinar about working from home. Last thing you want when little Johnny comes home from school as he turns his PlayStation on or Xbox or whatever and starts chewing up all the bandwidth, and you working at home trying to do your video conferencing starts to get impacted. So QoS is becoming very important, and on the app, the home user has the ability to be able to control that and ensure that for their devices, if they're working from home, they can keep a decent amount of bandwidth, which is usable. And some of those elements there, as you can see, we've just spoken about. Here you can see the devices. There's only a couple of devices in it, but it also provides the customer with a map of their environment. If they had multiple APs or mesh devices, they would be spread around here and connected either with a mesh or a star or however that is actually done. So at least they can see that all devices are actually online and operational and working, and they can see how many clients are connected onto each device. So again, that gives them a clue, and below would be that list of clients they could scroll through and see what's going on there. Parental controls I've mentioned, but also some of the other elements you can do. Obviously, they can do an internet connection test, a speed test. Now, the important thing for you as ISPs is when they do a speed test, it's actually doing the speed test directly off the router WAN port. So it's not doing a speed test wherever they're standing in their home. So it's not trying to speed test the Wi-Fi and things like that, because we all know that's one of the big ones that customers will ring up. They will be standing in some far-reaching corner of their home. They'll go onto the web, they'll go onto Ookla and do a speed test, and they'll end up actually speed testing their Wi-Fi, which is probably going to be 10 meg or something like that, because they're standing in a really awkward position. And they then start ringing you up as ISP saying, well, you're supposed to be providing me a 1 gig service and I'm only getting 10 meg. What are you doing? We all know how those conversations go and trying to explain that one away. Well, with this, when they test it, they test the actual WAN speed, not the whole environment. So a big advantage there. Now, I mentioned about the TAUC platform. So this is, for those of you who haven't seen it or heard of it, this is our TR369 capable management solution. So it manages the Wi-Fi environment. Very, very powerful platform. This is cloud-based. You have your instance you can log on. You can see all your customers on there. You can see what their environment is, what it's doing. It helps do zero touch configuration. You can send devices out to the customer for them to plug in and then upload the config into it via this platform. That can be done automatically as well. But it also provides you with an insight into their home environment, their Wi-Fi environment, and starts to provide a lot of different data, which when the customer rings up and says, I'm having problems, your customer service agents are able to go into this and see what's going on. The other advantage of this is it's AI driven. And so your customer service agents don't necessarily have to have a degree in Wi-Fi to be able to help your customer base. The TAUC platform will monitor, see what's going on, and actually come up with pretty standard, basic, suggestive comments to make to the customer, maybe to tell them to move an AP, or maybe to suggest maybe they need to purchase another AP. It starts to infer some different ways of fixing their issue. Of course, one of the advantages of TAUC as well is the ability for it to do all of those things that we've been talking about on Wi-Fi, but also when you're looking at the WAN environment on a 5G side, because there's a lot of things there on the 5G. If you deploy a 5G broadband service for a customer, there's a lot of extra configuration requirements and understanding about signal qualities and strengths and things like that. And the TAUC system is able to look at that, look at the 5G environment on the WAN port and understand exactly what's going on. And so therefore will enable you to ensure that the customer's connectivity is good on their broadband using the 5G. Very important capability. And then all comes together into one environment to provide you a full TAUC solution, doing WAN, doing 5G, doing Wi-Fi, understanding the clients, everything that's going on. So what that really does mean, these are the real key features here, and probably the top one, certainly as a feature, on its speed test capability within TAUC. The reports that it generates are Ofcom compliant. And so, of course, these days where Ofcom are saying to the ISPs, okay, you're saying you're delivering a service to your customer base of X speed or Y speed, prove it. Well, on the TAUC system, you can schedule those tests times of day, different times of day, multiple times a day, and collect those reports and keep those historically. And so when Ofcom come to you and say, prove that you're actually delivering that service, and go, yep, here you go. Here's a report that actually shows it. And it's compliant with what Ofcom are looking for. So that's a huge importance to ISPs nowadays, being able to prove the service they're providing is good. But of course, we mentioned these other elements earlier about removing truck rolls. It's so important for you as ISPs to be able to get that first call fix. So if a customer does call up, you want to be able to fix that the first time they call. This is an average cost, an industry average. Some calls will cost more, some will cost less, but on average, £37 for a call. That's what it's costing you on your operational budget. So stands to reason, if a customer does call and you want to fix it first time, you don't want 2, 3, 4 following calls with each at £37 a time, because that's just going to cost you too much money. The average time to fix without a solution like this, an average number of calls is 3 calls. So that's well over £100 for a customer. And that puts you in an environment where, your OPEX is being really hit. So first call fix is so important. The other thing it avoids, of course, is truck rolls. If you can get a first call fix, you're not having to send an engineer out. You're not having to ship out another device. And all of these things have costs. So that ability to find the solution, fix the issue, and more importantly, the last point here, keep the customer happy, keep that satisfaction, improve the customer experience. That's a massive, massive bonus and benefit and positive for the ISP. If your customer's happy, they'll stay. They're not going to churn. They're going to stick with it. interestingly, customers will accept an issue if it's fixed and if it's fixed quickly, and everything is fine and working again. Customers will accept that. It's when they can't be fixed or when it takes longer to fix, that's when they start to get unhappy and look to churn. So, final slide for you all. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear. I'll give you back some time then. The Aginet solution. Hopefully you have seen, certainly on this webinar, but also with all the webinars throughout the year. Obviously, this is the last one of the year of 2024, so I just wanted to kind of pull them all together in one final slide for those of you who attended before. I think you can see now our Aginet solution. It's not just about a router or a mesh or a 5G, 4G or DSL or a management system that does TR69 or an app or about TR369. It's actually about all of that. It's everything. So the Aginet solution for ISPs covers all your requirements, all your environments. It's all there to provide you the ability to deliver to your customer, support your customer, but also for you guys as ISPs to be able to do that in a cost-effective manner while maintaining good customer satisfaction. So hopefully that's given you a good overview of everything that's going on there. Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate your time over this year with all webinars. Hope you've enjoyed it and or gained something from it. If you do have any questions or anything you want to open up, we've got a little bit of time left, I think. We've got 10 minutes ish. If there's no questions, then absolutely we'll close down and give you back some time. But if there's any questions, please do feel free to ask away and we'll try our best to answer here and now. Okay, I understand that there is a couple of questions, but we've got Leswin, who is our main techie guy here on the ISP products, and so I'm sure he will be able to jump on that and respond to you on there. If there are any other questions, if you don't get the opportunity to put it into the chat here for us to respond to, please do. Send us an email, reach out to us, contact us, and of course we'll do our utmost to provide the help, support, information and answers to you. So I think everybody, I think that's it. I think we'll close the call down. Thank you everyone for your time. Really appreciate it, and wish you all a very merry festive season and happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year with more webinars. Catch up with you soon.